Hey everybody, good morning. I'm Victoria Moran of Main Street Vegan, but also of one person like all of us indoors and dealing with a very difficult time, and certainly more difficult for some people. So our thoughts certainly go out to them. I am attempting to create an Enchanted April out of this very bizarre and difficult April that we've got. So welcome to that effort, because we need to hold on to some of that enchantment within so that we can be strong and so that we can help other people. Now, the last time I did something video and wore this shirt, it was actually last week. I did something with Chef AJ. If you don't know Chef AJ, she is really dynamic and she eats really healthy. But anyway, people said, what does your shirt say? And my shirt says, in the mood for vegan food. And I want to do a shout out to the person who gave me this shirt. She is Sandy Nasanowitz up there in the Poughkeepsie, New York area. And she is the author of the most beautiful memoir called Oblivious. And it's about her journey to understanding that our non-human brethren have a right to be here and deserve to be honored and treated well. And it's very personal. She's a very sensitive person. She's an empath. And sometimes empaths have a different way of meandering through life than other people. And it's really beautiful to read. So Oblivious, Sandy Nasanowitz, I recommend that. So today's quotation for the day for Enchanted April is, what matters is staying in touch with the light within. Then, no matter what else changes, you're grounded in the one thing that doesn't. This is so important to me because I've always been fascinated by what is that part of us inside that's always us. Just think now of something that happened when you were 5, 6, 7 years old, kindergarten, first grade, that kind of time. Now, that's been a long time probably for most of us, and yet instantly, I'm sure you were able to bring up some kind of image. So that little child and the person you are today are the same person. So we're told that our body is always changing and we're sloughing off cells and we're renewing every 7 years and so on and so forth. And yet, something is eternal. And I happen to see that as this inner light. I'm told that in quantum physics, they say that at the center of every atom is light. And I've always been fascinated by that. I love images of light. I love quotations about light. A person brought a friend of his. The friend happened to be a psychic of some sort, and she kind of walked around my house and she sort of looked me up and down as if she was trying to figure me out, and she said, no wonder you're in New York City. You really need all those little lights. And I guess I do need all these little lights. So speaking of New York City, and then we will get back to the quotation for the day, but my wonderful virtual assistant, Jamie, hey Jamie, is always saying to me, tell people about what's going on in New York City right now, because they really want to know. Well, all I can tell you, obviously, is what is going on in my little corner of New York City. So like so many people here, I live in a high-rise apartment building, and there is this long-time myth that New Yorkers don't know their neighbors. But you know what? We do, and my neighbors have been so amazing through this experience. So some of you already know this story, but it's just too good not to share. So some of you know that my husband was injured in an accident in mid-February. So he was in the hospital for 3 weeks, and so we were there kind of as the coronavirus shutdown was starting, but not so much that he didn't get all these appointments lined up for his post-operative care and what he needed. But when they were setting up those appointments, they didn't know that everything was going to be on lockdown. So his part of what happened to him was his jaw was broken in many places and had to be not only surgically reconstructed, but actually wired shut. So after 30 days of clear liquids and not being able to open his mouth, he was supposed to have those wires removed. And yet the plastic surgeon's office was closed. And there was no way to do that. So I spoke to the doctor and said, one of my neighbors is a surgical physician's assistant, and she's actually helped with jaw surgeries, and she thinks she can take the wires off. And he just kind of laughed and said, this is not anything I could ever sanction in ordinary circumstances, but these are not ordinary circumstances. So something I will remember all my life is having my wonderful neighbor from across the hall come over, and she sat William up on a bench close to a window, because that was where there was the best light, and our companion animals were around. We have a wonderful dog, Forbes, we have a rescue pigeon, Thunder, and we sterilized everything. That was back before we had run out of alcohol and some of the things that we don't have now. And very, very carefully and very professionally, our wonderful neighbor was able to do this. And the first thing, obviously, William wanted to do after that was, eat some vegan food. So that's going to be a wonderful memory on into the future. Oh, Barbara Bijou, you're so sweet. Thank you. Thanks to everybody who's showing up and making comments. Another neighbor has come through because William needs another procedure in a couple of weeks that we don't think can be put off indefinitely, and our building has come up with a volunteer list of people who are offering to go out and get groceries for people and things like that. And I asked the person who was the head of that, do you think anybody on your list has a car? Now, this is New York City. This is Manhattan. We don't have cars, but a few people do. And there was one wonderful person on the list who said, yes, as long as it's not on the day that I'm preparing for Passover, I'll be able to take you guys to that appointment. So that's all pretty cool. But it is really interesting to know that just going out into the hallway is something that really has to be prepared for. So that means every time I want to take trash or recycling or composting, anytime I do laundry, anytime I go to pick up a delivery, and then the big ta-da of the day is dog walks. And it's really interesting to me, and what's made it more helpful is if I turn it into a kind of high-stakes game. So originally, when they were saying that the COVID-19 could only be passed along if somebody actually coughed or sneezed on you, and then they were saying, no, people who aren't symptomatic can pass it along, so be 6 feet away, and then they said, no, maybe that should be 10 feet away, and then more recently, they're saying it could live in the air for 30 days. So every time I go to walk the dog, I get all suited up, with the mask. And I have a few paper masks that they gave me at the hospital, thank God, when William was being released. But paper masks don't last forever, and they kind of stretch out. And some of them now, if I really pulled up on them, they'd cover my whole head, which, might be a good idea. Oh, the noise in the background, that's Thunder. He's a pigeon. He can't fly, but he's walking around having a good day. So anyway, what I've been doing with the mask is taking packing tape and fastening it here, because they get kind of bigger, and that there's air going in there. We do the best we can. So my game is sort of like a video game, and obviously, look at me, I'm not a video game aficionado, but I feel like I'm living one whenever I walk the dog. So I've got the thing of your basic distance is 6 feet, but it really ought to be 10 feet. And then I have this sort of handicap in that there is this dog who's with me, and he doesn't know that we're playing this game. And he thinks that we're supposed to go sniff everything and stand around and do all the stuff that we always used to do when we went out walking. So I try to look everywhere and be really aware the mask is here, the sunglasses are here, the gloves, the dog. And usually I do really well. I'm getting very, very good at the stay away from people game. But you know what? I have never had a perfect game. It seems that every time I go out to walk Forbes, somebody gets closer than 6 feet to me. And usually they're really close. It's usually only one person. And I take that as kind of a sign. You can do absolutely everything you can do. And then there's a limit to what you can do. So this morning, for example, I thought, this might be it. This might be my day of the perfect game. But you know what happened? I'm walking up Madison Avenue. If you know this area, we're in South Harlem. So I'm just walking up by Marcus Garvey Park, and a young guy, probably about 16, sees a bus on the other side of the street, and he wants to run for that bus. So he goes right in front of me. I mean, inches. I don't know where he came from. I just know that he was inches from me, and he wasn't wearing a mask or anything, because you know what? He's 16. I think it's harder sometimes for really young people to get what is happening right now. And what could I do? Okay, I accept that I didn't have a perfect game. And then when I came home to do my meditation, I added something in at the beginning. The Buddhists have something that they call a loving kindness meditation that's a blessing for all beings. And I kind of added on to that. So I brought this young man's face into my mind. And the prayer that I said was, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be prosperous, may you fulfill your potential, and may all your dreams come true. And that really helped. There's a wonderful teaching in the 12-step programs where they talk about if you have a resentment towards somebody, you pray that that person would have everything that you want. It's pretty powerful. So I think that little bit of instruction was in there too when I thought about what I did this morning, and I'm going to do it now every time somebody gets in the way of my perfect game in this very, very high stakes time that we're in. So moving on to inner light, the quotation again, what matters is staying in touch with the light within. Then, no matter what else changes, and heaven knows a lot has changed for all of us very recently, you are grounded in the one thing that doesn't. So that comes from this book. Can you see? This is called Lit from Within. And this is a book that I wrote. Actually, it was the first book that I ever wrote when I came to New York City. It's funny, being here in New York, it was all I wanted. It was this great desire. I have to be in New York. I have to be where they publish the books. And my daughter had the same desire because she's an actor, and she wanted to be where they produce the plays and the movies and all that. And so we got here in 2000, and it was so cool. It's like, yes, we are here. And people said, oh, one day you'll get tired of it. And day after day after day for 20 years now, I am not tired of it. But what I learned is that even when your dreams come true, all your karma and all your life lessons and all that stuff comes with it. It's as if the universe says, well, by all means, have whatever you want. And then here's all the stuff that is going to come with it. So I was in New York City for a year, and we had 9/11. And now I've been here for 20 years, and we're having, let's be the center of COVID-19. And it is interesting to be in this place where everything is intensified. And I think it is intensified because there are so many people close together, so many interesting people, so many different kinds of people. Everything has to be intense and exciting and stimulating, and yet also sometimes intensely difficult. But you know what? Inside each one of us, there is this light that doesn't change. So I'm going to read to you from Lit from Within a little bit from one of the very final chapters. It's called Be Ready for Light Times. We can be ready for those now, right? Okay. Consider this story hour, but it's going to be like story 2 minutes for adults. Light times are when you get so much inner wealth, you can store some for later. These periods are the spiritual equivalent of a bonus or a dividend check. You don't get one every day, so when you do, it's special. Generally speaking, light times are when things go so well, it's as if you're in a bubble of goodness nothing else can penetrate. But sometimes they come in the midst of a crisis, when even with despair all around you, you know you're protected, safe, and in divine company. These states of grace can be spiritual experiences or earthly adventures. Either way, you get some exuberance out of them. And exuberance, wrote the poet William Blake, is beauty. Prepare for light times by being ready physically, mentally, and spiritually. When purifying your body, elevating your thoughts, and acknowledging your spirit become a matter of course in your daily life, you'll be able to see light times coming and never miss another one. Be grateful for the intervals when you're touched with an extra light. Your gratitude causes them to proliferate. Even if it feels like your last light time was ages ago, appreciate that one and the one that's sure to come. Say thanks for every day that's dazzling, every day that's good enough, and every day you just make it through. Something else is always on the way. Life is composed of circles and cycles. Your spiritual practice and every snippet of wisdom you collect along the way direct your life in an upward spiral, even when setbacks make it seem otherwise. Light times are coming. Be ready to welcome them. So thank you all so much for being part of this today. It is just such a pleasure to see all your wonderful names. Anthony, Lisa, Chantel. Oh my goodness. You know, there are some people that you hardly ever see in the real world, but they pop up in your life over and over again and are such a blessing, as all of you are to me. So a couple of announcements if you're looking for a little more inspiration and edification during Enchanted April. If you weren't on the call yesterday, we talked about doing an Enchanted April journal, and I would highly recommend that you do that. It can be a beautiful journal. Hi, Nivi. Hi, Star. Hi, Marisa. So, or it could just be a notebook, or it can be, some scraps of paper you find somewhere. But just make a little notation every day. Did I get an idea? Did I get a thought? What am I feeling? Even if you write down the stuff that feels kind of icky, you put it out there on paper, and that takes its power away. So I also want to let you know about this week's Main Street Vegan podcast. We did the live show yesterday. The podcast is up now. I had two wonderful, wonderful women guests. In the first segment, it was Janie Goddard. She's president of the Complementary Medical Association in the UK. She's written 2 books on pandemic flu. I mean, this woman knows her stuff. And the information that she has is so solid. It's so ABC. This is what I can do. This is how I can plan my day for today and tomorrow and going forward through this experience. So Janie, God bless you. You were amazing. And then in the second half, we had Angela Crawford, PhD, who's a wonderful psychotherapist who gave us techniques for dealing with the angst and the anxiety. And I know here in New York, it's like, oh my gosh, does that person carrying COVID-19? But, there are so many other things people have to worry about. And so let's just figure out how to deal with the things we're worrying about and kind of uplift some of that, because, miracles can happen at the darndest times. So let's be on the lookout for those. I also want to let you know, if you are home with kids and if you are trying to be a homeschooling parent, even though that was never anything that you thought about, a couple of wonderful homeschooling moms, graduates, and I are going to be doing a Zoom webinar about homeschooling. So the 3 of us homeschooled in different states, so there were different laws that we had to follow. And we all have grown-up kids who are making their way in the world beautifully. And we'd love to just help out parents who are saying, I never intended to be a teacher. How did I get into this situation? So if that's your situation, or if you know somebody like that, please keep an eye out here, or subscribe to my newsletter at mainstreetvegan.net, and we'll get the information out about that homeschooling seminar. And the podcast is called Main Street Vegan, and it's on all podcast apps, or you could also listen at mainstreetvegan.net. So thank you, Jarre, way out there in California, Shannon, and Jean and Brad. Oh, goodness sakes. Old, longtime friends. Young, longtime friends. Okay, everybody, I've talked enough. Go on and make it an enchanted day. God bless. Be well. Be safe. Bye.